Hi folks, and welcome once again to Spotlight North Carolina Cooperative Extension, brought to you by the Columbus County Center of the North Carolina Cooperative Extension Service. North Carolina Cooperative Extension is housed in all 100 counties and the Cherokee Reservation to provide educational information in the areas of agriculture, 4-H youth development, and family and consumer sciences to you, the great folks of the state of North Carolina. And for those of you who don't know me or may know me but just need a refresher, my name is Dr. Howard Wallace. I'm the County Extension Director here for Columbus County Cooperative Extension. Along with my administrative responsibilities that I have in our office here in Columbus County, I also have the pleasure of serving as the Horticulture Extension Agent. So my work encompasses what goes on both in the home lawn, in home vegetable gardens, and also on a commercial scale in commercial produce fields here in Columbus County. And today I have something that I think many of you are going to find very interesting based on the number of phone calls I've been receiving about this critter this year. I came back to Columbus County about 9 months ago in October, and since the very first day I came back, October 15th, I have received at least one phone call about moles in home lawns every single week over the past 9 months or so. Almost guaranteed once a week I get that phone call. So today I wanted to take a little time just to kind of go over a little bit about, number one, what is a mole, how to identify that you actually have moles, and we're going to talk about some management options that you as homeowners may have or may be willing to try. So that's going to be the topic of our discussion for today. So let's start out with describing moles and giving you a little picture of what they actually look like. A lot of people who have moles actually never get to see them because they burrow underground, and their physiology allows for them to live underground without actually even being exposed to sunlight. Their distinctive features that I think really make them recognizable are the fact that they have a hairless nose that's long. It's a prolonged nose out front. They do have eyes and they do have ears, but they're extremely small. So when you actually look at them, the hair of the mole actually covers them. So you don't really see any eyes out front, and you don't see any ears along the top of their skulls. And then at the same time, they have these bare skin, hairless claws, which are very short, and they sit close to the body. And that's what they use to dig a lot of the tunnels that you may be seeing in your yard if you think you have a mole problem. They're also fairly small. Males and females are somewhere in 6.5 to 7 inch range when they're full-size adults. So that's what moles look like. But like I said earlier, most people have never seen a mole in their yard. What they have seen are the tunnels. And there's another critter that we sometimes get in our home landscapes called a vole. That is V-O-L-E versus mole, which we're talking about today, M-O-L-E. Voles are like field mice with smaller ears, smaller eyes, and they're more accustomed to being found in your flower beds and in any sort of beds that you may have with plants growing in your home lawns. They like to eat the root systems of plants. Again, we're talking about voles, and that distinguishes them from what we see out in the yard with moles. A lot of vole, again V-O-L-E tunnels, will be in your flower beds, any sort of mulched part of your lawn. Moles, their tunnels are going to be out in the grass, and they're going to be very distinguishable because the soil will be pushed up and there really won't be much rhyme or reason to the direction that they're going because they're actually foraging and looking for their food source. Their food source is going to be grub worms and earthworms. They eat meat. Moles eat meat. So that's how we know that that's what they're doing. When they're out in the yard, typically that's a pretty good that's a pretty good, reasonable point to just look at and say, okay, yes, I have moles in my yard. They'll also create molehills. That's where they just try to they move so much soil in one place, they have to get it out of their tunnels, so they just make these little mounds outside the tunnels. You can see a lot of mounds and maybe not any tunnels either, and that's because they've burrowed so deep, it's not pushing the grass up top. And that's what people really don't like about moles. The moles are in the yard and they're pushing up the grass, they're making the yard softer, it makes it a little it makes for pits that can sometimes develop where water will stand. It can be unsightly from the road. It really takes away the curb appeal from the yard. So I definitely understand why folks really and truly want to try to control the moles. But again, just to reiterate, moles eat grubs, they eat earthworms, and they create these tunnels and molehills all throughout the yard. A few more things about moles that I think are important to know. Moles are very antisocial. They'll breed every year and they'll have about 2 to 3 offspring, but they don't run in packs. They don't stay in groups. They really like to isolate. So in most cases in a home lawn, you've got maybe, depending on the size of your lawn, if you're getting up above an acre, you could potentially have 2 moles in an acre of activity, because again, they really and truly want to stay as antisocial and as far apart as possible. But in general, with a smaller lawn, you're only going to really have 1 mole being active at any time. And they are pretty aggressive in creating their tunnels. They create the tunnels to find food, to find grub worms and earthworms. They can go fairly deep. They can stay right at the soil surface, however, again, creating the visible tunnels and mounds that we see when we're standing outside in the lawn itself. The key point about their tunnels, however, is that while they may run back down a tunnel when it is tramped on and compacted, they will try to dig it out again, but a lot of times they don't go through the same tunnels over and over. If they dig a tunnel and they have no luck finding any food, they'll usually turn back around, start a new tunnel somewhere else until they find their food source. And then the next day they start the process all over again. Some tunnels, again, you'll see, some tunnels they may stop and you're wondering, well, why did they stop there? It's like they had all this extra room to go and they were really and truly just going super low into the ground and not pushing up any of your grass in doing that. So we've described a little bit about how to identify moles, mole activity, and what moles eat. Now let's talk a little bit about the management of moles. And I use the word management because so many people call me or email me or text me and they say, Howard, how can I kill the moles in my yard? And I always have to caution them that moles and mole control, mole management, is very difficult. There is no silver bullet for mole control. There is no 100% effective means of control on the market either. And I say that to say, you may try one of the things I'm getting ready to mention, and it does not work at all in your yard. The mole just continues to be active, and it doesn't seem like what you did, time, energy, money, whatever it may have been that you had to put into doing it, it didn't show any effect whatsoever. Mole's still working. He's still busy. But your neighbor who has a mole could do the exact same thing that you've done and have just a total positive experience with it. So the things we're getting ready to talk about, I definitely want you to realize that there is nothing that is considered to be 100% effective on the market. So let's talk about a few things. You will find things like mole baits, mole gels, all these things, whether they're at big box stores or online, through online retailers, talking about mole controls that you can try. I cannot necessarily recommend those. However, I also can't discourage you as the homeowner from making the decision to use those baits, those poisons, whatever they may be. But I can't say for certain, again, that it's going to be 100% effective. I'm not going to discourage you from trying it, though. If you want to try it, be my guest, but I can't really say anything beyond, feel free to try it. But again, I can't make any guarantees there. So that's one option. And that's usually the first option a lot of people go with. The issue being, again, is that the moles, they move through their tunnels infrequently. When they find food, they're happy and they kind of stay in that area of their tunnels. They don't go through other tunnels. So you kind of got to figure out where they are in order to put this bait for them to latch onto it and use it. So bear that in mind. They also make mole traps, and they honestly look like just middle-aged torture devices. A lot of them are spring-loaded, and they have a spear that actually comes down and pierces the mole and kills it that way. Again, if you put it on a mole tunnel that they're not active on, you may not see anything happen with it. But again, you're free to try it if you feel like that's the way you'd like to go about it. Another really common method of control is killing the food source. A lot of people believe that is the most effective means of control of moles. What I have found is that, just like I mentioned earlier, putting out pesticide to kill the grubs and the earthworms may work in some lawns, but it may not work in your lawn. So you have to bear that in mind as well. And some of those chemicals can get very expensive. And I also like to let folks know that, when you're killing off grubs and earthworms, that's really going to impact the overall health of the soil in your yard. And you may see some residual issues in the future because of that. So just bear that part in mind as well. But by and large, all the research tends to show that the pesticides being used to eradicate grubworms and earthworms, by all intents and purposes, seems to be the most effective. What I have seen be the most effective, but definitely not the most attractive for your lawn, is the use of predators. A dog that likes to dig, dogs that like to bring trophies up for you, like if they catch a field mouse. Same thing with cats. Cats that like to burrow, dig, and bring trophies up, they seem to be, in my experience, the most effective means of controlling out the mole. Because if they get that one mole, if you're in a small yard and they get that one mole, they've gotten the mole for your yard. So the issue with moles should probably go away by then. However, they're going to make a mess of your yard more than likely unless they get lucky in the very first shot. So they're going to be digging holes, they're going to be rutting up the yard, and so you will have to do some repair after the fact. I've found that, again, to be the most effective means of control, just the predatory aspect of it. There's also other things that I kind of consider to be kind of like old wives' tales or just old folklore passed down. Vibration, some people believe, works with moles. So some people will leave lawnmowers just sitting in the yard right on top of their tunnels, just running all day and thinking the vibration of the lawnmower may scare them away. Can't say that's been the best one. Castor oil is also another one that I've heard people talk about using in the past. Again, I can't recommend any of these, but I'm just letting you know some things that are kind of out there that I don't really believe are going to be super effective. So I don't really recommend doing those things. In the end, moles are just difficult to manage out. So you have to be patient and persistent towards moles, like we have to towards a lot of the other issues we have in our home lawns. So anyway, if you have any more questions about moles, if you'd like me to take a look at pictures or have me come out to take a look at your lawn to see if you're having a mole issue, feel free to call our office. Our number is 910-640-6605. I'd love to talk to you a little bit more about it, see what I can do to help. And with that, I want to thank you guys for being with me again today on Spotlight North Carolina Cooperative Extension. Hope you join us again next time as we provide more educational information for you, the great folks of Columbus County.